Hello guys, welcome to the second part of this topic. As we say, the second part will be conceptual static model. So in general, the static model focus on the problem domain and the system context. So the problem domain, what we mean by the problem domain is the area of the application that need to be examined. So as we say, okay, maybe you have uh, for example, the ATM machine. So in ATM machine, there is many problems, or we can say it's many issues, many use cases. So which area you should to exam, which area you should to model. For example, the each we can consider each use cases as a problem domain, and each use cases should be modeled. Each use cases should be convert or represent as a class, something like this. So in static model, we will see how to build the physical entities and classes entities, and finally the context class diagram. So what we mean by the physical classes? As I explained earlier, the physical classes is the actual devices, the external devices that interact with our system. So in the ATM machine, there's many classes, or we can say there's many devices, there is many external devices. There is also, so we have the card readers, we have the printers, we have the dispenser. So all of them, this is we can consider it as a physical devices, and these devices have we can call each one is as a physical classes. So the physical classes such as external devices, user, timer, so all of them is physical devices. So here we say anything can be seen and touched. So this is the physical devices. The entities classes, actually the entities classes is how represent these physical classes in our system. So in our system we have the data, and this data is the structure of the program, structure of the system. So the entities class is the conceptual data that represent the physical classes. So here, one note here, we say the physical entities represent the classes in the problem domain, which there will need to be conceptual representation in the system. So the physical entities represent the classes. So here actually we will refer to our example, the ATM machine. So here we explain in each ATM machine consists of the, for example, card reader, cash dispenser, receipt printer, and blah blah. And this is the physical classes in our system. So if we want to build the physical classes, the first physical class, as we see here, if you see here, everything, every class is here. Every class is something can be seen in the system, also can be touched. So the operator, the ATM itself, the ATM, the customer here we say the customer display or keypad display, the card reader, the cash dispenser, the receipt. So each classes of these classes can be touched and seen. So here we say this is the physical classes. This is the physical classes. We first build the physical classes, and from these physical classes we can build another models, which is the for example the context diagram or the conceptual diagram. Here's the same, actually here's the same, if you see it's the same, but another, we include here the bank, since each bank have many ATM machine. Also, we include also the user, the customer. Here is actually the different. Here is not the customer. Here is the keeper, the display. But here we include the two main things, as we say, it's the customer and the bank. Here is the this is the first conceptual static model. The conceptual, as we see, the conceptual static model is exactly it's the class diagram, but here we only have the classes that can be seen and touched. These two next slide is just explain the relation between these classes. If we come to the entity classes, as we see, okay, now we have these physical classes which represent the physical entities or the physical object of the system. From this, we build the entity classes. Actually, the entity classes is the what we can say the representative of physical classes. Representative of the physical classes is actually the classes in your system. Okay, if you see there, uh, we have the customer, but how this customer it's I mean how we save the information of the customer, how we save his account, how we save. So there is some another information was different than physical. So here the classes in our system, the classes in our system. So here we can see is the entity classes or the conceptual entity classes. We just here we represent the classes in our system. Okay, if you see here, for example, we have account. There we don't have account because the user account is we can say is something is virtual. Is something is just related to the data. We just save his data in this account. So in physical classes, we don't have to mention something like account and the transaction and the card account. Or this is, for example, here we have something is in physical classes, maybe the card, the physical card in this, for example, ATM card. But here we have but different with card account. Maybe it's save the same information in the physical card. So here all information is just classes. So we represent also classes in our system. Also same to the our two classes. This is just an explanation of the relation between these classes and the multiplicity of these classes. So we come to the third part of the static model. In the static model, we should to develop system context diagram. Actually, as we see from the first part, I see this is our target to develop the system context diagram. So what the difference between we can say the other classes, that's the conceptual diagrams or the conceptual the models and the context model. Actually here we represent also if we go back to the first physical classes, our context class diagram something will be something like this diagram, but in our context classes we will include also the system. We will include everything inside and outside the system. We will uh, also identify which classes is outside the system and which classes is inside the system. So let's start. So as we see here, we should ask ourselves, what's inside these classes and what outside this, or what's inside the system and what outside the system. Once you answer this question, you can develop your system, your context diagram. So also we go back to our system, our ATM machine, ATM machine system. Here our context diagram. Actually, we build the context diagram based on the physical classes or the physical entities classes. As you see, we have the same physical classes. Just we add the bank. We add the bank as we can say is as a block, and how other entities and how other classes interact with this system. Here is some information how the relation between the bank as as an entity and other classes as entities. So here the bank system context class diagram, but it's not the final. We will see the final in next